what is known as the most major housing crisis of our time. And this one does not look like it's going to repeat to that level. So we'll all keep our fingers crossed. So got into business in 2006, got a really quick start, brought my husband on to join me in 2008. And fast forward today, we're a team of 14. We run the MREA model. So we are all about millionaire real estate agent. Our first year to gross $1 million was actually in 2013. And our first year to net $1 million from our real estate team alone was 2018. And then for just fun, we also have 3 market centers in Atlanta. So we like to keep things, crazy.
Well, I have loved getting to know you guys over the years. And for me, I'm also a database and referral relationship type business. So you guys are the ones for us to model after. You are living it, you're doing it, and you're seeing the results from it. And I watched you on Pivot the other day, Shift, and you said that you've never called an expired or for sale by owner. And I'm proud of you for that. I did, and I was terrible at it, and I wanted to vomit, so I stopped.
I didn't know if I should say that on a KWRI call or not.
Yeah.
Yet I think we just have to focus on our strengths right? And that's something I really learned early on. When I read that Strength Finders book, is like, find what you're really good at and just do more of that. In fact, I'm so glad Bold has shifted to what it is today. How fun is Bold right now?
So fun.
I made 183 contacts last week. I was so proud of myself, and they were all database. And I love it. I mean, it's always been the heart of our business, and it's just, to me, the most fun.
Well, let's just stop there. I'm also in Bold, and I realized, and I'm calling through database like you with the care calls, and I just realized I need more time because I'm leaving lots of voicemails, text mails, Facebook messages, and I'm not getting a lot of real people. Do you think people are getting back to getting out of the house a little bit, or how did you really get in your contacts? Did you do a little trick like give me a call back or something, or they just wanted to talk?
I worked the weekend. Like I was like, I am going to call Saturday and Sunday because that's when I'm probably going to get more people on the phone. And like yesterday for Mother's Day, oh my goodness. I mean, Veda was like, you've worked all day. And I was like, but it doesn't feel like work, right? Because I'm just connecting with people. And it's just, it was actually really fun. I know for sure I have one listing and one buyer out of it. Yet typically what I see, and Jennie, are you the same way? Like if I'm really calling through my database, I typically don't see the results from those calls really show up till about 2 weeks after it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not really bummed that I only got a buyer and a listing because I know more is to come in the next 2 weeks and it'll just come back tenfold.
You just made me think of, and of course, you know how things come into the universe and then you keep seeing them appear over and over again. This morning, when I was preparing for our call here today on Tactic 8, do you remember the quote at the beginning of the book by Thomas Edison that says, opportunity is missed by most people because it is dressed in overalls and looks like work. Well, you realized that you weren't getting in your contacts, so you got creative and worked on the weekend. That's super smart. So thank you for sharing that tip because
oh God, you're welcome.
I think that all of our Bold Pivot people, you know, there's only 35,000 of us in Bold right now. They might need to hear that even at your level of production, and this is something that, gosh, it keeps transcending, like everything's attached. Most people in the world are watching The Last Dance with the Chicago Bulls.
Yes.
And the speed of the leader. I mean, last night you're being Michael Jordan. You're on the court. You're making the calls. You're encouraging all those around you. You're probably not like verbally abusing them, but you're still like showing up.
You better believe on our win plan call this morning. So we have an 8:30 call every morning with our team, and everybody goes around the circle and they said, what was your win yesterday and what's your plan today? And you better believe I said, I finished 183 contacts yesterday.
Yeah.
You're proud of that?
I think
we have to, right? Like we can't expect our people to do things that we're not willing to do.
There you go. You're a great leader. Well, let's dive into this chapter. Over the years, all of your success has obviously been building and maintaining great relationships. Well, you couldn't sell a lot of houses if you didn't give great advice to your sellers. you've been in the business since the last shift. So what and how did you act, and what did you learn back then that you carried all the way through to today and is still in your business?
Yeah, I love that. Um, and we will get to shift tactic 8 and staging. I think there are two pivotal things that we did in 2006 is we really looked around and said, where is the market, right? If luxury is not selling, if condos aren't selling, what is selling and what can we go to? And thankfully, we never pigeonholed ourselves into a specific area of Atlanta. So it really, like, we saw certain neighborhoods dry up during the shift. And thank goodness we weren't all in just one neighborhood. We were kind of across the city because our database is across the city. And so we really shifted to first time home buyers and investors. And Jennie, as I was reading this chapter again this weekend, it made me think of the very first time we actually hired a stager. And it was in 2010. By the way, that was the pit of the market in Atlanta. I don't know was that kind of the low in Oklahoma, 2010?
Yeah. It took a while,
Yeah.
and then it got here around that time.
Yeah, so 2010, it is the pit of the market, and we are working with investors, and we're basically buying houses now that you would pay $450 for a teardown lot. We were buying them from $100,000 with investors. We were ripping the roof off, raising it a second story, and then we were reselling it. And I mean, that business is what kept us alive. And our very first staging project was actually a staging project on one of those second story addition flips. And our investor said, hey, one of my friends from high school is actually a stager. And I would really like for you guys to meet her. What do you think about us staging this vacant house? Well, Andy and I were like, oh, of course. Do you know, to this day, she is one of my best friends. And now she not only stages just investor properties, she stages every single property for us that we list. So we either do a vacant staging package, or every one of our homeowners that goes on the market, they actually get a staging appointment with her. And her business has grown so much. Now there's, I think, 10 of them. So just kind of cool story. When I was reading this, I was like, oh my gosh, like we started this in the shift.
Well, and you helped her become a business that she may not have otherwise had.
Yeah. I mean, and it's been, I mean, I think about it. I mean, we at least give her 150 stagings a year.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's been really fun to watch.
So something I want to talk about is back then, 2010, 11, when you were feeling it and we were feeling it, we of course had this book. We heard the language that Gary talks about in here about, it's a pricing war and a beauty contest at the same time. We could use those scripts with our sellers to get them around the idea of staging. Well, since then we have HGTV and all of the television shows that paint this picture, and people now, they buy into staging. Do you think
100%?
It's not a objection really? What are you seeing more of now in adding the staging in? Is that really just a value add for your people to stand out, or?
I think so. And we still use that script. Like, it's a price war and a beauty pageant, and you have to look your prettiest and best because you do not get a second chance, right? And so one thing that we really learned early on is if I'm going in on a listing appointment and I'm listing this house, I'm spending an hour to an hour and a half walking through our process. If I stay there and I tell you what to do on a staging appointment, I'm committing 3+ hours to an appointment, and their defense mechanisms go up when you say, hey, I would really change this color, right? And so I want to separate those two things.
Yep.
And so I think that was the beauty in 2010 is say, hey, I have a specialist. We believe in specialization on our team. That's why our listing agents work with our sellers and our buyers agents work with buyers. And we also believe that you need a stager, that is what they do every single day, because they're better at telling you colors and flooring or countertops than we would ever be. And one thing I love too that our stager has done, and if you can find a stager like this is incredible, is they also have workers that will come in and do the work. So it completely removes us from having to get our vendors to come in and supply that. I mean, it's just, I can't imagine going back. But it creates this warm, friendly relationship with us and the seller because I'm not criticizing their the color choice in their dining room, right?
Yeah, I want to add to that. I remember an agent in our office back in the day, she would share at a team meeting that was her specialty. That's what she gave to her clients, was her staging advice. And then finally she shared and admitted that she'd given all this time and this list of things to do, and they didn't even list with her. So that was my lesson in my earlier younger days of the value of offering this advice. Only should it be done with a signed agreement, number one. And then secondly, leveraging off to a professional. So I know Kelly's here watching, and she asked, what does your stager charge for the different services that she provides?
So it's usually around $200. If it's inside the perimeter in Atlanta, I mean, good grief, our traffic and our drive time can be insane. So they will tack on additional money if they have to drive farther. But typically it's around $200. And what they do is they spend 2 hours with a seller. They walk through the house and the seller actually takes the notes themselves. Because what we found is if the seller takes the notes, they internalize it more. And this is just my opinion, right? I mean, we could get thousands of opinions, I'm sure, if we asked everyone throughout Keller Williams. But I actually like the seller having skin in the game. I like for them, number one, to have to be there, number two, to take notes, and then they're interacting with the stager. What I've found is if we paid them to take the notes, half the time they're not going to show up. They're going to say, just give me the notes, right? And then they take it or leave it, whether they do it. So I think if you can get the stager and the seller to align their schedules and be there together, then it's a win-win.
Yeah, that's about, we also have a stager. We call her our design expert, and she actually is a friend who, she used to be on the team. She was a buyer agent, and then she had twin daughters and decided that she needed to get out of the business. And so she still was great at helping our sellers do a consultation. So now we pay her $200 and she gives an hour consultation. I love having the seller help out. But the value and beauty of this for those watching is that, Lesley, how much time did you save at your listing appointment when they started asking you questions about what should I do with this room? What's your script for that?
Absolutely. You're going to set that up before they even ask.
Yeah.
So when we first go in and we say, we want a quick tour of your home, and here's the difference. I'm not going to be going through your home today telling you everything that needs to be done, because that is our stager's one and only thing. And as soon as we get that agreement signed, we're going to send our stager out and she will spend 2 hours with you doing that. The purpose of me walking around your home is just to see overall how I think we compare to the recent sales. So I think once you just nip that in the bud, I mean, people are so excited to show you their house and every little thing. And if you go in quickly and set that expectation, then you won't be there for hours.
Well, and we all know that there's so much value in this. And what do you think I'm not going to quote you on this, but what do you think the number of agents that are offering some kind of service versus those that aren't? Because we know from the book that a staged home, and this is back when this shift came out, that a staged home ends up 66.3% more than their asking price on average. That's how much more a seller can get. So how many agents are doing this?
Oh, I bet you could follow Pareto's principle, don't you?
Sure.
80-20 rule.
90,
I bet 20% of agents are doing it, or maybe 90-10, right? Yeah. I think kind of depending on the market. I'll tell you, we had to sell forward with this. And so now our policy is 100% all the time. Every single house will be staged. About 5 years ago, Andy went on a listing appointment and he went with our listing agent, Jennie. And they go in, and we usually don't go together. I don't know why they did, but they went together that day for whatever reason. And they walk in, and it is a gorgeous, drop dead, beautiful listing, right? And it did not need to be staged. That was their opinion. So Andy and Jennie quickly said, and you know what? Your home is in such great condition. We're ready to go on the market. We thought we had the business. A week later, we get a phone call that they had chosen another agent. You know why?
Because they told them
Because the other agent offered staging. And even though we felt like the home didn't need it, that was an added value that they really wanted. And shame on us, right? And so from then on, and God, this is probably 2015. From then on, we have not gone on one listing where we haven't staged the property.
That is a good lesson for anyone watching. And that goes without saying with all things that you offer in your business. You always want to provide all clients all the same level of service, unless there's some kind of tiered and there's, some difference there. Well, I love the leverage piece because it just saves us time and money, and it's going to make them more money. They're going to sell faster. I heard this, and I love quoting it. Rather than calling their stuff clutter, we just encourage them to start pre-packing.
Yes. And I love that part because, Jennie, think about it. When they said, it's almost like the psychological thing in their mind. When they start packing, there is a movement from their home becoming a house, right? And so that's always the transition, and always the script that we use with sellers is, your home is absolutely beautiful. And what we know is that it is your home. And to appeal to the masses, to appeal to all kinds of buyers, we have got to turn your home into a house, right? And so that process of just turning your home into a house gets them excited about their next opportunity because they don't have all their stuff.
They start moving in their mind, and they're going to totally buy into it. I love how Gary and Jay use on page 163, they talk about the buyer experience, and it's a nice little graphic there. And I kind of made a note. I feel like this could also be the order of how you place your pictures on MLS as well. I mean, so you are, and I don't know if everybody already knows this or does this, it's just you're wanting to walk the buyer through the home in the most important spaces. Do you guys have I'm sure you do, you're so systemized. Do you have a system for how everything shows up?
Absolutely. And I think we have to know too, and an agent, when I first got into the business, told me this, and I thought this was just so amazing, is when you're actually showing a buyer a home, you don't want to pull in the driveway. You want to park on the street so they get the full effect of the whole house, and you're walking from the street, up the driveway, through the sidewalk, right? You're looking at everything. And so I think there are little tweaks like that if you're not doing that, it truly can provide what Jay and Gary call the storybook experience. And it is. It's like a storybook.
It is
a bestseller.
It is a bestseller. That's actually what they say in here. So now that you were one of the first that I watched of your virtual open house walking tour with your gloves and all. And so that again is a piece of this whole seller strategy when it comes to getting their home. I feel like it's a piece of the strategy for staging as well. How have you swapped your systems when it comes to our new virtual world?
Yeah. So we are filming virtual tours on every single listing. So if it's a luxury listing in Atlanta, let's say anything above $750, we are actually paying our photographer to do a video tour. Yet we found that people in our database are actually connected to different members of the team. So it's so much fun if a team member actually walks them through the home just like they would on a showing and point out all the little things that even a buyer's agent walking them through that home wouldn't know. And Jennie, we switched to that immediately. The first week we went into shelter in place, and we sold from March 15th to March 31st, we put like 14 homes on the market 13 out of 14 went under contract in 2 days for 102% of list price on average. And
Wow.
we did finally sell that 14th home. But I really think it was our ability to pivot and shift that actually enabled that, right? And all those homes were staged. And so now our stager is even working virtually. So this is something for you guys. Just like we're doing virtual showings, our stager is doing that virtually via FaceTime. So if you have a seller that's really concerned about people being in their home, I think that's something that your stager could still offer.
I totally agree. The first week that we were like you pivoting and shifting, I reached out to our photographer and our stager and I said, what's your comfort level? We need to start planning ahead and thinking ahead. And yeah, using FaceTime is super simple. You know, we had a couple different levels of strategies where seller could do some video footage and shoot it and send it back and forth, or they could just do FaceTime and walking through together. This is the time to get creative, right?
Oh, girl, 100%.
Well, what else really stood out to you? I know you took 3 pages of notes. What were some of your highlights that you thought were important?
I love this 3P2F formula. So just like, I love formulas though. I'm such a nerd. Like, I love things like that because it'll make me remember. And the 3Ps, you're looking for planting, paint, and pictures. And the 2Fs, you're looking at furnishings and fixtures, right? And so if we just focus on that, I mean, I love that part. And I think so much of it is, somebody told me this early on in my career too, and I've never forgotten it, but think about when your buyers are standing at the front door about to walk into the home and you're fumbling around for your lockbox key and working on getting the lockbox open. What are the buyers looking at? They're looking at the doorknob. They're looking at the door knocker, right? If they're not fresh, if they're rusting out, right? Or if the plantings are overgrown at the front stoop, or if your front door is not painted, that's the first impression. So that's something that I've always known. Like we have to make that front door area look amazing, right? And so I like that formula, Jennie.
Well, I love that too. And that even goes along with the order that Gary talked about, from curb appeal, entryway, kitchen, master bedroom and bath, living areas, other bedrooms and backyard. So in that order. And you're so right, Lesley. I mean, if we sat here, the two of us, in all our years in the business, and we think about these little intricacy things that we do that we don't even know we do. So exactly that. I mean, you having been with a buyer, and you see what they see and the words that they say, you can then take that inside the home with the seller and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I totally get it that you don't want to clean up this front entryway. However, here's what buyers say when we're standing at the front door and we're getting the door open. And it's just it's such a nuance of using all of our lessons because we've lived it and done it. And then you carry that over. And those are the stories we tell. And that's why they buy into and believe us when we explain the value of pricing it correctly and having it in great condition.
If we can just tell stories, that does the heavy lifting for us, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, a story means so much more to a seller than you just saying, and I need you to paint your front door. Yeah. You have to explain why, right? Everybody wants to know the why behind it. Especially when we know that, like, what is it, 80% of people are high S? Is that right?
Yes.
70 or 80% are high S?
Yes.
Well, what do high S? They want to know the why behind things. So we've got to take the time with our sellers to really explain it. You know what I really like? And I knew this, and we need to start using this script again with our sellers. Pricing gets you in the game and staging gets you the offer.
Yeah.
So we've got to do both, right? And I think for so long it's been such a seller's market in Atlanta, like it has in so many places over the country, that a lot of times we've kind of forgotten condition, right? We've forgotten all the updates that you have to make. And we've just said, if we price it right, we know we're going to generate an offer. Well, in a shifting market, as we're shifting back to a buyer's market, or even, a 6 months worth of inventory, a balanced market, I think we've got to remember that it's price and condition. It's not one or the other.
You know, that's so true, because even the example that you shared with Andy, and I have totally done this myself. You walk in and you've got the cutest house, everything in order, and you go, you know, typically we offer a staging consultation. Your home is amazing. You don't need one. And then that's the time the market shifts or something, you know, it's just that one time you make that mistake and now you're the jerk because you've missed out
Exactly.
on sharing that with them. And whether it's, you know, staging or pricing, so something we even added into our business is a different tiered levels of service with different commission structures, and part of that is helping out with pre-inspections and pre-appraisal. Well, pre-inspections is definitely a part of the staging process, wouldn't you think? I mean, having a great conditioned home is a part of that.
And I think you have to know when to use that. And I love that you talked about pre-appraisals, because as I was reading this chapter on staging, I thought of what we really did back in the downturn to sell homes. And every single house we listed, we would order a pre-appraisal on it.
Mm.
Because we had homes that were going on the market, we were getting them under contract, and then all of a sudden, right, they don't appraise, and our sellers couldn't sell. And so we partnered with a appraisal company here in Atlanta. I can't talk today. And we did pre-appraisals for every single listing. And that was amazing. And then what we did, Jennie, is we would just say, hey, we'll pay for it up front, or you pay for it up front and we'll credit you back at closing. And then we've always, when I was reading about how different people pay for it in shifts, we've always paid for our staging up front. And that's just a cost we pay for, unless it's a vacant staging package, they pay for that. But what about you guys? Do you pay for the staging?
Yeah, it's a part of our gig, and that's our value proposition, is that we know, because we've seen it time and time again. Here's a great story and example. I had a personal trainer back when I turned 40, Lesley. This was like 7 years ago. I know you're my little 40-year-old baby girl here. But I remember being like,
You look younger than me, by
no,
the way.
I
Yeah,
remember,
you do.
I remember saying to myself, all right, I'm 40, I need to get in shape. And so I went and got myself a personal trainer. Well, the trainer was great, and he happened to have his real estate license, and he had his license with Keller Williams, my same office, but I didn't know who he was. And then he was on a team, and he didn't do much production. You know, he was part-time agent. And as we work out, and I finally, you know, get some little guns on me, he finally says, he goes, Jennie, I think I need your help. He wasn't on this team anymore. He said, I have my sister-in-law, and they need to sell their house. I've had it listed for 6 months and nothing has happened. I said, absolutely. I'd be so happy to help. You know, I pay him a referral fee. I go to the house. The house is in great condition. It's in a great neighborhood. Seemed to be priced correctly. However, we know if it doesn't sell, something's going on. All that we did, sent over my stager, sent over my professional photographer, took pictures, staged, and didn't even change the price. And it sold in 9 days, full price. That's the power right there. Now, we don't want to tell sellers that haven't signed an agreement with us that that's a secret.
No, absolutely not. In fact,
It is a secret.
yeah, I love that story, because it does make me think so much about early on, though, Jennie. We were not nearly as systematized. And I'd trust the seller that said they were going to list with me, and I would send out my stager, and then they would go sell to their neighbor or their neighbor's friend, and then we would be out the staging fee. So now we've gotten smart. Karina and Lance Loken use the commitment to sell.
Yes.
I think it's the Lokens that use
Yep.
this, because I think they gave it is them, right?
Yep.
And Karina and Lance gave us a copy of the commitment to sell, so we adapted that. And so if we're 3 months out from listing, then we're just going to have you sign a commitment to sell that basically says that you'll reimburse us for the cost if anything changes, right?
Yep.
So we're just getting that in writing up front.
So if somebody wants to know what the commitment of sale is, kind of give them it's a one-sheeter, just saying they're going to work with you.
Yeah, it's basically just saying that they agree to work with you, and they understand that you're incurring upfront costs and that they'll reimburse you should they not list for whatever reason. We're happy to share that too.
Yeah, we love it. And I think it's like a buyer broker agreement. It's just a mental agreement that they're all in and they're committed. They're not going to go
Yeah.
cheat on you.
And Jennie, you guys are so much like us. 80% of our business is repeat and referral. So a lot of times we're finding that because it's friends, because it's past clients, people that we've worked with in the past, they're contacting us a lot earlier than probably the normal seller would. So we may have people right now contacting us about listing in the fall. Well, it's too early to sign a listing agreement because in Georgia, we have to have the exact date that it's going to go on the market, and you just don't know the exact date of this at this time. So a commitment to sell just kind of allows you to go through your process and gives you a little more freedom and flexibility.
You know what you just reminded me of? That is so true that we get so many personal referrals. So I know in the past, I have lowered my performance when it came to a listing presentation because they were referred by a friend and I just thought it was 100% my deal. Like they're going to list with me. And I learned the hard way that they did not. They picked another agent in my office who was brand new in real estate. And I was like, what the heck happened here? And you know what she did? She gave a full presentation. She went to that listing appointment like a job interview because she was brand new and she did what she's supposed to do and I didn't. And that taught me a lesson, just like you said there. Even though we get these repeat and referral business, we still need to show up as a professional and have their buy-in and commitment that this is how we work.
Yeah, I mean, we have to do the whole dog and pony show, right?
The whole thing, even with
The
family.
whole thing.
Yeah.
And so many of even our team work with their own friends, right? We're just all database driven. And one of my favorite scripts is, listen, Jennie, you are such a great friend, and I want to make sure that you get the full Peters Company experience.
Yeah.
And I know with friends, I have a tendency to use this hour as just social hour. And I don't want to do that. So if it's okay with you, I am going to give you the exact same dog and pony show that I would give everybody else, because I want you to know that you're just as valuable to me as every other person. And I would not be doing you any favors if I left anything out. Is that great? And they're like, yeah. And then it cuts the chit chat and you really get to go into the meat and potatoes of the conversation and you don't forget anything. Because I think our friends have this really hard time seeing us as a professional, right?
Yes, you just reminded me of a story, and then I've learned to use a bold script as part of this. I mean, whether it's a buyer or a seller, your friends, we love them, and they just want to chit chat about real estate because doesn't everybody? It's a fun topic. And whether it's a hey, will you show me this house, or hey, what do you think about my house? I finally had to learn, and I used the script. Lesley, I appreciate you so much, and I totally want to be ready for you when it's time for you guys to make a move. Can I just ask you to make sure that my motivation matches your motivation? If we run out and see this house today, are you guys ready to buy it? And then my girlfriend, she's like, oh no, I'm just looking. It's just fun for me. Same with even, what's the value of my home? To properly price your friend's house, you need to do some research and put in time and energy. And that's very serious, right?
It is. And we can't do, and they don't understand that we can't price property on the fly, that we don't have a Rolodex in our brain of every house that's sold within a half-mile radius throughout the entire metro Atlanta area, right? Or Tulsa area. Like, we just don't know yet. That's what's important to them, their neighborhood that they're looking in. So they just assume. And so I think preparation is so key, right? And having the right scripts.
Well, maybe because I just know your business so well and it's so intimate to me, I know that you guys use a tool every anniversary. You send your past clients something.
We do. And we're changing it a little bit. Actually,
Tell me.
we're going virtual because I feel like we've learned so many great lessons out of this whole virtual situation that we'll keep, right? So every year on someone's anniversary month, so if they bought their house in May 5 years ago, this May they would actually get a home anniversary CMA. So what we do is we print out a quick CMA, like a comparable market analysis of their neighborhood or a half-mile radius, and we send it to them with just some notes, like you made a great decision when you bought, and then we'll highlight a couple of houses in there that are comparable to theirs. And it's not meant to be like a pricing meeting. It's just meant to give them value, right?
Knowledge.
Basically, it's for us to replace Zillow, right? So we just want to say, it's like your annual checkup at the doctor. We're doing an annual checkup on their property value. And so we send those every single month to all of our clients that have sold whenever, up to 14 years ago. And we are actually pivoting, and we're going to go virtual on these.
Okay.
And the reason is because one thing we found with doing virtual listing presentations is it's so awesome that you can actually show them pictures of the interior of homes, and you can share your screen and compare and contrast. So we're like, well, gosh, instead of a one-page quick CMA, why wouldn't you send them a link, set it up on an FMLS search with the same like verbiage, and it just sends to them automatically every year?
Okay,
it saves tons of time. It saves money. Why wouldn't we do that?
Okay, I'm a detail person. Tell me again, where is this set up? Just on your MLS, just as a search?
On our MLS. So
okay.
When they close, we're going to go in, and we're going to have to go back, by the way, and do this for everyone. And this is going to be quite the project.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go back, and on their closing date, we're going to set them up a search on their particular neighborhood.
Right.
And that search we'll save it, and we'll just send it every year.
Gotcha.
So instead of them getting automatic updates in that neighborhood forever, we'll just have the search saved so we can run in and do a quick report and do like a copy and paste of the letter that we actually handwrite. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I got it. No, because we have been thinking about our virtual one as well, because we were sending the one-pager CMA, which is a little chicken scratch note on it, and then with all of this, I thought, well, so we're still working to get our command all set up as a team. And so we've noticed that not all our neighborhoods pulled. And so that anniversary every month, we're going in and just making sure that their neighborhood is set up, and then they get a market update there. So that's one way that
Awesome.
they see it. And then we also use Cloud CMA. Have you heard of that tool?
That's what we've been using. Yeah.
So
our FMLS just came out with some new product. Our listing manager knows all about it, and I don't. And that's what she was actually looking into for the virtual. Yet it's just a glitch. We're in command too, and I think it's just a glitch that they're working on, and it's just a bug. I think they're going to fix it. So potentially we could just use command versus our MLS.
Yeah, and I think that for anyone watching, the whole reason that we obsess over these things, Lesley and I, because really you're a director of operations at heart, and so am I, that we just want our people to be getting something from us.
Absolutely.
Something. And here's the thing, because I have a call reminder. So they're getting whatever this virtual or automatic thing is happening, and I have a call reminder. So I'm personally calling them and saying, hey, can you believe it's been 5 years? Wow. If you're interested, I'd be happy just to send you an update, because they just might want to know what's going on in the neighborhood.
100%.
Yeah.
It's just bringing value to the relationship.
Yeah. What else is on your list of notes there? Because I know you took a lot.
Oh, I'm a note taker. I always think about creating emotion when they're in the house, and you want them to actually sit on the seller's furniture. Like, I really think about that. I'm like, we want to make the home feel so warm and inviting that they can sit on the couch or sit in a chair and imagine themselves there. And so I think explaining that to the sellers, because so many times sellers are like, do I really have to take down the pictures of my family? Do I really have to do that? What about that portrait of my kids above the fireplace? Do I really have to take that down? And understanding why, like, you want this to feel like their home. And it's really hard to connect when they're sitting on the sofa if they look next to them at the sofa table and there's pictures of your children there.
That goes along with the high S's. So if you are a understander of the DISC assessment, the D, I, S, and C, the S is steady and stable, secure. So that most of the S's, the population, you can tell an S's house when you walk in because they've got the family pictures everywhere. So you have to gently ask them to remove those because that's their life right there, right? So like you said, painting the word pictures for them to see the value in removing it because they understand they've got the family pictures all over the house. So
Yeah.
like that.
I think about my mother-in-law too. Always a good mother-in-law story. But I think about her when we listed their house years ago. She had this like maroon red throughout her entire house. I mean, really the entire first floor. Maroon red, like heavy curtains. And she is an interior decorator. Like she really, like she is. Like she's a legit interior decorator. And she took massive offense to Andy saying, you really need to turn it into a neutral color. She's like, well, I'm an interior designer, right? Like you're telling me. And so I think that we have to get our scripts really right because we've got to talk to our people about making sure that their house appeals to the largest segment of buyers.
Right.
And what do the largest segment of buyers right now look like?
Mm-hmm.
They look like people that are watching HGTV all the time, right? I mean, that's the largest segment of buyers. And so we've got to kind of stay with the times.
Well, are you having challenges these days? I mean, of course, the trends these days are more modern and clean and light and bright. When it comes to the interior of a home, I mean, is your stager having that conversation about paint? Yeah.
You know, I think it's age. I think it's generational.
Yeah.
Where we're having the most issues is a lot of the baby boomers they haven't bought in to the HGTV, right? They love their things that they have, and they don't. That has been our probably just knowing segments of the market, right? And knowing who you're walking into, and they're the ones, honestly, that they're the most, I'm trying to think about how to say this in a very kind way. They're the ones that typically do not want the stager. My house is fine, right?
Yeah.
My house is good. It's good.
I
don't have to do all that stuff.
Yeah. How do you gently educate them on the reality of, I mean, if you go look at new construction right now, you look online, you can see the trends, you know what's
a massive difference.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm focusing on two things. And the first thing that you're going to really focus on is the exercise that it laid out in Shift. Like, I love the before after pictures.
Yeah.
Like this is what buyers expect. I love just pulling houses and photos from their neighborhood of a kitchen that their kitchen could be compared to. And I think that's been the beauty for us of the virtual presentation, right? Because they can see that their kitchen is not as updated as this kitchen. So I think going through that exercise, what page was it, Jennie?
Oh, yeah. It's right
I'm trying
here.
to find the page.
160.
Page 160. So I think going through that exercise where you're letting them compare and contrast, right? And really think about what do most buyers want. And then number two, I think I'm going straight into price reductions. We know if we don't get the price and condition right the first time, we're going to know that in about 15 days in Atlanta. And it's going to make over an 8% difference in what we're able to bring you for your home. So whereas right now we're selling homes for 98.5% of list price, we're going to go down to like 92% if we miss it. And it's not just about the price. We've got to get that condition right too.
Well, yeah, and it's even worded in here. You never get a chance to make a second first impression. You know, I wrote this down because earlier you and I were both sharing our stories and talking about the value of stories. Well, maybe someone's watching this that doesn't have the years of experience in the story library that we do. This book, here are your scripts and here are your stories.
Oh my goodness. In fact, for years I've been using the beauty pageant. Jennie, our OP at the time, Sean Rawls, way back when I was brand new in the business, like 2006 to 2010. In 2008, when the market crashed, he started doing stats presentations. Well, the first time I read Shift, like in 2000, I don't know, not 10, because I wasn't that smart back then. I didn't just jump on the bandwagon and read things like I do now. I read it in like 2012, 2013, and I was like, Sean has just been quoting this book. Like he's just been quoting Shift all this time. So for so many people, I think that they hear us saying things, and honestly, everything I say is probably an MREA or Shift.
Totally, 100%.
You know?
Yeah,
so I cannot take credit for anything that comes out of my mouth because I've gotten it from somebody else.
Oh, 100%. All of us rip off and duplicate. So I'm so with you because I won a Shift CD series, and there were literally 8 or 9, 10 discs in this whole book back before Audible. And I had a car, I don't even think my car has a CD player anymore, that would play them. And I would just go through and go, of these tactics, what do I need to work on today? And I would pick that CD, before a listing appointment. I would listen to Price Ahead of the Market, seller pricing strategies. This for sure is another one for listing appointments. The next one we're going to get to is buyer urgency. So listening to this, and I even listen to it every morning before I do these with you guys, is just to remember, because the words have all that you need inside of them, then they become you.
Oh, 100%. Amazing script throughout this whole thing. Too, and we're not there yet in Atlanta because people still have equity in their homes, right? But I remember when I was selling houses in 2010, 2011, like people didn't have a lot of money to make the update. They just didn't have the money to do that. So that's another way our stagers can be so helpful, because they can really give them guidance. And I always tell our stagers this: if I leave a listing appointment and I say, you know what, that carpet really needs to be replaced, I'm going to call the stager and say, hey, make sure that the carpet's on the top of the list, like leave out something else. So I think we have to have this knack of understanding priorities. So for people that don't have money, for people that may have lost their job during this crisis right now, we've got to have strategies to say, okay, the carpet's more important than the countertop or whatever it is.
Well, that's exactly right, because selling your house could be very overwhelming. And if we just word vomit all over them, all the things they need to do to get their home ready to sell, they're going to shut down and say, forget it. I don't even want to do this. Our job is to make it as easy as possible, to walk them through and hold their hand. Another great thing you just reminded me of our stager. She, like I said, she used to be on our team, and yours is a good friend and worked with you for so long. They're also building us back up. You know that?
Yes.
Yeah. I know our stager will say, wow, you are so lucky that you get to work with the Wolek Group.
Yes. And just having that partnership.
Yeah.
One thing, if you guys are listening to this and you don't have a great staging relationship, I highly recommend finding one, because our stager will do things for us throughout the year with our clients that are really helpful. And for instance, every year at some point, we'll do like Tasha's design picks, and we'll have a wine night at our house, and she'll come over and she'll do the top 10 trends of 2020.
Yeah.
And your clients love that, because the partnership for me is that I want them to love her so much that they actually use her for design work in their home.
There you go.
Right. And so people get so interested in the design. How can we capitalize that? We can be really close and build an amazing partnership. So when we do a wine night, she's our guest.
And now you can just do a virtual wine night and not even have to leave the house.
So true.
How
So
fun
true.
is that? Well, what is up for the Peters Company? How, with all of our new shifting world and life that we're not quite sure what's going to happen here in the near future, did you guys keep your goals the same? You just doubling down on stuff? What does your new world look like?
Jennie, our team is so amazing. I can't brag on them enough. In fact, they don't even know this yet, but they're all getting gifts delivered to them today, just because they're incredible, because they have not whined during this whole thing. So we may have a little something that they can use with wine, WINE, to come their way today. They have bound 50 or put under contract, whatever your terminology is, they put under contract 55 houses in the last 52 days. I mean, they are crushing it. They're just working harder, they're working smarter, and they're just going for the motivated. And so really shifting for them has just been conversations to find the motivated. We are starting to see our leads slowed down a little bit in April. Guess what? They're back in May. They're starting to call again. The phones are ringing, and our appointments were down in April. Yet our pipelines were so amazing that, I mean, we're profitable now through June.
So you're a database business. So your agents aren't calling for sale by owners and expireds. And you and I know that that voicemail left today may not produce a result for till next month or next year. So how do you get a consistent pipeline when you're calling database?
I love this. This is such a great question. We actually went over this with our 3 market centers last week, because I think this is where we get stuck as real estate agents. And that's the reason we have this cyclical business, is because we don't build appropriate pipeline. So for me, I'm looking at pipeline kind of like I call it a martini glass, or it could be a funnel, but a martini glass just seems more fun. And so your A's, for me, an A is someone that's ready to buy or sell right now. A B has one thing standing in their way. So they may have to get that tax refund check, right? Or they may have to have that baby, right? There's one thing standing in their way. And then the C's are people that have 2 or more things standing in their way. So you should always have the most C's, half that in B's, and half your B's in A's. So if you let's say you had 20 C's, then you're going to have 10 B's and 5 A's, right? And you want it to look like a martini glass. Well, we are so, I'm trying to think of the word. We are so determined to build strong pipelines that every single week we're looking at our pipelines. We're looking at our appointments. Every conversation with our database is to find the win, the WHEN. So if I'm calling and someone says, you know what, I might want to move when this is all over. So tell me, what's your definition of this being all over? Yeah. Because everybody's going to have a different definition. So really diving into, okay, what does that look like and when that might be? Well, where do they go? In your pipeline. So we just really we've always worked hard on building our pipeline so we don't have the inconsistencies and the roller coaster business that so many real estate agents have.
So they're in your pipeline. They've made their way to the B category. How often is your system that they are following up with them?
Right. So A's are being followed up with at least twice a week, right? That we are constantly keeping in touch and being proactive with our A's. Our B's are every other week, and our C's are once a month. Our C's, though, are typically 6 months out.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So our C's are kind of 6 months out, or they think they're 6 months out. But what I love, and somebody told me this early on too, and I think this is genius. When your buyer tells you that they want to buy in 6 months, half it.
Yeah. Because now that it's in their brain, the universe is going to give it to them. And
we just have to be in touch.
Have to be there. We have to be there.
And you asked that question, and I want to follow up on that. So we are personally following up with those people 2 times a week for the A's, every other week for the B's, once a month for the C's, yet they're still getting all of the Peters Company stuff Our 36 touch plan is running in the background. So they're really getting touched more than that. It's just that personal phone call.
That's important to note. So we just have a few more minutes, and I love borrowing and stealing all the stuff from your playbooks in the past. I know that your whole business is really based on client events. Which ones have you shifted to virtual, and what are you going to do coming up?
I was so heartbroken. We had to shift our Easter egg hunt to virtual. And we didn't even do it virtually. I mean, how do you do an egg hunt virtually? Yet we had already stuffed 3,000 Easter eggs with candy. So we just picked 150 of our VIPs with small children, and we delivered them all across Atlanta. So everybody had Easter eggs, and we hung them on their door in a Peters Company red bag. It was a lot of fun. Our derby party was canceled. We typically raise about $2,000 on our at our Kentucky Derby party for one of our favorite charities. So that had to be rescheduled. The Kentucky Derby is now in September, Labor Day weekend. So we're going to cross our fingers that we get to have that party then. And then we're just doing virtual things. So we've done like a fireside chat virtually. Yeah. We have a big coloring contest coming up. We have a contest for adults. If they download their app, the consumer app, the KW consumer app, they're entered into a contest to win 3 nights in Hilton Head at our condo. So we're just trying to do all these fun things so we still have a reason to call people, because I don't want to just call people and say, just checking on you a million times, right? I want to bring value.
Okay, so that goes to a question that someone asked here on Facebook. So when you're calling, now we're going back to the pipeline, when you're calling your A, B's, and C's, what is your script? So what is the script for an A? Clearly they're hot, so that's going to be more direct.
With an A, you're always bringing them properties, right? Okay. So you are always searching and bringing them properties, even if it's not the perfect fit. What do we hear most often from buyers? That they did not like their last agent because they found their house. So your job is to find their house. So for A's, it's easy. For B's, you're doing the exact same thing. They're not there yet, and they're not quite ready, but they think they're ready. And you bringing houses to them is adding value. For us, I love to bring someone a coming soon opportunity. Like if I see an agent that's about to list something in their neighborhood, I'm going to bring that to them because that is adding such value. And then for your C's, you really are just checking on them and seeing if anything's changed, right? You're checking on the win. So easy strategies. And I think you're still bringing your C's property too, right? Because they're hiring us to do that job. So our job is always just to add value. And have you seen this listing? I thought of you when I saw this. This could be a perfect match when the time's right.
You have added so much value to me today. I'm so excited I got to hang out with you for an hour. I can't wait to do a real hug rather than a virtual hug.
Me too.
Soon
Thank you so much.
So tell
everybody
how they can find you and send y'all referrals.
So I'm Jennie's Georgia twin, and I call her my Oklahoma twin.
Except you're this much
taller. I'm a head taller. I'm a head taller, and my hair's a little darker right now. I've really got to go to the hair salon. And in Georgia, hair salons and tattoo parlors are opened up just in case. Oh, and bowling alleys. I mean, real interesting. You can get in touch with us at thepeterscompany.com. Or you can email us at wecare@thepeterscompany.com, and we would love to serve all your Metro Atlanta referrals. And Jennie Wolek, you're the best.
You're the best. I'm so happy we got to hang out together. I appreciate you. If you guys need anything from me, of course, reach out as well. Hope you got some value from this, Lesley, and we'll talk to you later. Bye, guys.
Thank you, girl. Bye.